Rishi Sunak has absolutely promised, and by the way, we're 100 days in to his premiership, he's absolutely promised he will stop the boats. But there are many of us who think that might be difficult, giving British judges, given the fact they will lean again and again on the European Convention of Human Rights, backed up, of course, by that court in Strasbourg. We'll talk in a moment about the history of that court, why it was set up with perhaps the best possible intentions, but now, as I believe, its baleful influence. GB News' People polling, and we produce those figures every Friday. One of the questions we asked people was, did people think we should leave the European Convention on Human Rights so that it can control immigration? Completely agree, or somewhat agree, 38%. Disagree, 32%. Now, the 30% wouldn't say didn't know. Now, you could argue that's a leading question, because we've asked about ECHR and controlling borders at the same time. I would counter that by saying most people, if you presented them with ECHR, wouldn't actually know what it is. I think there is a growing concern that in Brexit Britain, a court in Strasbourg still has a say. Now, joining me, immigration lawyer Ivon Sampson, friend of this programme. Just a quick potted history. This European Convention on Human Rights, the court in Strasbourg, this was done to stop abuses such as were going on in Austria and Germany in the early 30s. It was with good intentions, wasn't it?
It was, and what it does is it protects the individual from unlawful interference by the state. But your poll, I mean, it'd be interesting to know what parts of the convention people don't agree with. I'll give you one, the right to life. Do you agree with that one?
Do I agree that I need some European convention giving me the right to life? No, they can go to hell. I've got those freedoms in my own country.
Freedom of expression, do you agree with that?
I don't... No, Ivan, here's the point. This is my point. I don't think we need a European convention to give it to us. Whatever the imperfections of our country, we have, I would argue, since Magna Carta, actually lived in the freest of all European countries. Why do we need this stuff to be given to us?
Because you can't have a government with unfettered rights against citizens. You need to have some protection for individuals.
Okay,
and that must be built into a democratic society. You can't have, otherwise we would live in some sort of dictatorship. And you don't have these rights in China or Saudi Arabia. And there's a reason you don't have these rights.
But this is the United Kingdom.
Yes, I understand that. But as I said to you before we came on air, the reason we have gay marriages, transsexuals get married, is because of human rights laws.
Shouldn't we decide that in our own country through a parliament whose MPs we elect or sack?
Yes, we should, and that Parliament has elected to have the Human Rights Act as part of our legislation, and that's what Parliament has decided. So, and they've done it because the principles of it protects everyone, and if they are fundamental principles that a civilized society would have entrenched in law, why would we come out of it?
Why should a decision to deport people to Rwanda, why should at 10 p.m. at night a judge whose name we don't know, probably a man or woman with no legal training, because that's what the ECHR court's made up of, jurists, not judges, why should an unnamed judge in a foreign court decide what we can and can't do in terms of controlling our borders?
Because they have a legal right. The English courts cannot overrule the jurisdiction of the European Court.
Which is why, OK, that's the current situation, and I get that, and I understand why we signed up to it back in 1949, whatever it was. You know, it was a post-war world, and we helped write the rules, indeed, for much of it. I get all of that. But, you know, the point is, shouldn't, particularly in Brexit Britain, shouldn't the ultimate arbiter of what we can or cannot do be our own Supreme Court?
And they are, but not for the convention rights. Look, if I want to be protected against unlawful interference by the government against me, I wouldn't want a British judge deciding that.
Oh, come on.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. If I wanted absolute independence, I would want a judge outside the country who I'm fighting against. So, in actual fact, I think they do an excellent job, the European Convention on Human Rights. And the other thing about will it stop border crossings? It will not.
But hang
It's
on.
no magic pill.
We struggle to deport people. You know, Article 8, the right to a family life, all these things get quoted. British judges draw on it. I mean, Ivon, let's get to the crux of this. We are not deporting people, even those who failed asylum. And we come up against the ECHR time and time again, and that is unacceptable.
It's simply not true, Nigel. Look, the courts side with the government when you're arguing Article 8. I do these cases. And time after time, the tribunal judges side with the Home Office. You have to be living here 20 years to come within the rules of Article 8. 20 years. And the government's codified it. Look, and the benchmark for engaging Article 8 is very high.
Why are we not deporting people who illegally come to Britain and fail asylum? Why not?
Quite simply because we haven't got the systems to do that. The law allows the government to do that. The Home Office has the powers to deport people, to certify applications,
I tell you
to
what,
make applications inadmissible. The powers are all there.
I tell you something. We're going to return to this ECHR debate. This is going to become a bigger issue in British politics. 68% of Conservative voters want to leave the ECHR. There are going to be voices within the Conservative Party making this argument. We at GB News are miles ahead of this debate, and it's going to come back. And Ivon, thank you